Do musicians really get laid more than everybody else? Probably, yeah. I'm Jake from Drunken Logic, and I've been a full-time musician for most of my professional life. And yeah, I think when you're up on stage, under the lights, singing somebody else's favorite song, showing off like that, there's a lot of people who are going to be attracted to you because you're the center of attention and you have a talent that people admire and respect, hopefully. At the same time, I think it's really easy for somebody in that kind of position to not be very present or vulnerable with the people they're becoming involved with. I know that gigging 4 or 5 nights a week meant that my schedule was always in flux and turmoil and didn't always line up with people who worked 9-to-5 jobs. It always meant I was very busy trying to push my own career forward. And because I knew there would be other opportunities, it was very easy for me to convince myself that I was settling for whatever was happening right now, to not really focus on it and give that person the respect they deserved. On the flip side, I think there are a lot of people out there also who really like the idea of hooking up with or dating a musician, but perhaps not the reality of it. My experience is that a lot of people expect you to be the same person off stage that you are on stage, and if that's your expectation of me, you're going to be sorely disappointed. The point being that I have had my fair share of, frankly, meaningless hookups and flings over the years. It's not something I'm proud of. I always aspired to something more, a long-term relationship and partnership, and eventually building a family. But because of my circumstances, and because of my own issues with vulnerability, because of the disordered eating and weight issues I've had, because of the bullying that I experienced as a kid, I've had trouble opening myself up to the very thing that I've wanted. That said, I'm not somebody who buys into the conquest dynamic that men often apply to this type of thing. I'm not overly proud of hooking up with somebody for it. I don't think of it as a notch in my belt or a feather in my cap or some type of proof of my manliness. But there's a lot of people who do. And I remember taking a bus into New York one time in college and seeing on the side of the road that there was a bar called Valhalla and thinking to myself, wow, what a perfect metaphor for that idea of male dominance in the sexual space. The idea of conquest. This is where you go to prove you're a man by taking a girl home with you for them. And by the way, that's not thinking that's just on the male side. I think people of all stripes want temporary reprieve through sex, through intimacy, through company. And I'm also not necessarily against that either. But it's also important to note that society lionizes men for behaving that way and demonizes women for behaving that way. In the Shadow of the City is a fictional story about that bar called Valhalla, and it's ultimately an exploration of the emptiness of that type of behavior on both the male and the female side. It's also the song from which this EP takes its title. There's an awful lot of nothing in the shadows of New York City. Thanks so much for listening. This has been Jake from Drunken Logic. There's more Something About Nothing to come.